With all the new technology and the abundance of information on the web, you would think that buying or selling or understanding the real estate market would be easier than ever. But ask yourself one question. Now that you've done your homework and you think you know what's going on, what do you do next? Sorry about that. Well, one of the things you do next is you get a sense and an understanding of what the market is when you're going out and either looking for a house or buying a house. That's essential. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a buyer's market. Last week we talked about a seller's market, and today we want to cover what a buyer's market is. We're going to get into the specifics behind that. We're going to talk about your negotiation platform for being able to manipulate that situation to the best of your advantage as a buyer. And so we're very excited today. We had some new equipment, so we're trying to test this out today. So if something happens, my apologies, but technology changes all the time and we've got to change with it. So hopefully we're consistent today, this morning. But again, one of the purposes of this blog is to give you real insight outside of the things that you normally hear on the internet, or see on the internet, I should say, or hear on the internet, about the strategies that are involved in the buying process, specifically the buying process today. And I'm really excited to share our information and tell you whatever, we've been in business for a very long time, and we want to share that some strategies with you today, or tell you some of the things that really work in your favor when there's a buyer's market. Now, one of the questions you might ask yourself is, what do I care if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market? And the reason that you should care about that is, if you're going to approach them, potentially, let's just assume you're a terrific negotiator in and of yourself. Maybe you're in sales as well, and you feel that it really doesn't make a difference. You know what you're doing. Well, as a good salesperson, there are certain fundamentals in every industry, and you should follow those fundamentals in spite of your skill set to understand what the playing field is. And that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the playing field wherein there is a buyer's market. We're going to define that, and then I'm going to give you some tips as to how that can work in your favor. But before we get started, I want to introduce myself. My name is Stewart Fournier. I'm an 18-year resident here in the beach areas in Los Angeles, California. My wife and I, Randy, we both practice real estate, have combined for well over 35 years now. We've handled short sales, we've handled foreclosures, we've handled brand new builds, obviously residential, we've handled flippers, we've handled probate, we've handled 1031 exchanges. We've done it all in the many years that we've been involved in real estate. And one of the reasons we wanted to create this blog was to sort of clear the clutter a little bit and define exactly how we can help you and give you advice. This is Facebook Live. And as a result, I'm encouraging you to ask questions in the comment section right below. If you have a question, please go ahead and comment, and I'll be happy to answer. I can't see you on this particular platform, which may be a good thing for you. I don't know, but I can't see you. So if you have a question, it's going to come up on my screen, and I'll be happy to answer it. It doesn't have to be on today's subject. It can be on any subject related to real estate. So let's get started. Let's talk about what a buyer's market actually is. Very simply, a buyer's market is when there's a lot of inventory and houses are taking a long time to sell. And there's probably, in most cases, more inventory than buyers. But let me back up just for 1 second. Understand that when I define what a buyer's market is or a seller's market, it is going to be specific to your area. I talked about this on the last blog, that you should do, the first thing you should do is investigate whether your particular area is in a buyer's market, in a buyer's market scenario or a seller's market scenario. It makes a big difference. And one of the ways that you can check to see if you're in a buyer's market is to check the average days on market for the houses in your area. Now, when I say area, I'm talking about probably 5 to 10 square miles within the location that we're talking about. You could have houses, 20 miles out that are in a seller's market, and then all of a sudden a particular neighborhood changes into a buyer's market. So remember, this is region specific. That's the first thing you should do, is figure out exactly what's happening within your region. Please do not pay attention to national headlines or even city headlines, respective of understanding the market, because your market could be much, much different. And that's one of the reasons you want to use a real estate professional. They can clear that up for you. But if you're just checking online and you want to get a good sense of whether you're in a buyer's market, probably, I want to say, between 60 days plus, which is the average days on market. Let me clarify that a little bit. What that means is that most of the houses that are actually on the market are taking 60 days, 90 days, 120 days to sell. That's when you know you have a buyer's market. And simply because it's taking so long to sell, everyone accepts that there's probably, that's considered a slow market. Let's see. Okay, so why is there and what creates a buyer's market? Well, the simple fact is that a lot of times it's because the perception that people have is that prices are coming down. In other words, you're going to see it in the headlines, you're going to see it in the actual days on market. There's going to be a sense in that particular area that things are not selling as quickly as they used to. They're not even selling as quickly as an average days on market, which is usually between 30 and 60 days. They're taking a lot longer to sell. And so as a result, people are not rushing out to buy. And that creates a log jam in the amount of days on market that we begin to see. So that's why I'm saying you want to go out and check the days on market. Why aren't they selling? Well, they may not be selling due to a recession. That's the biggest factor. That's the one we see the most. Or they may not be selling because there's been an unemployment rate or a particular industry in your particular area that's left. And as a result, there's a lot more inventory and you just don't have a lot of buyers. So those are the basic reasons that you'll see a buyer's market. So let's talk about what happens to sellers in a buyer's market that you can take advantage of. And one of the first things that happens in a buyer's market is that sellers begin to get what we call low bid offers. Now, obviously, you know what that means. It's offers that are coming in way lower than the actual listing price. And I've, on previous blogs, described to you the dynamics behind, fair market value. And that's what we talk about on this show mostly, is fair market value in relation to a buyer's or a seller's market. Now, typically in a buyer's market, fair market value is what, I've explained that before, fair market value is what we average with all the other houses in the neighborhood. And that is typically what the listing price is going to be. However, most people realize that even though they're putting their house up fair market value, it's going to take a while to sell, and there will be people that will come in and give and offer a lower price, whatever that might be. Now, in a low bid situation, generally I have what I call a 5% rule. So this is an important point here. People will debate it back and forth, but this is what I find over the many years that I've practiced in real estate generally happens. What generally happens is, in a buyer's market, if you put your house at a fair market value, there's a good chance that you will get offers anywhere from 2 to 5% less on average. And here's the reason why. The cost to sell a house is obviously around the 5% mark. And people know that they can take advantage of the fact that you're going to have to sell your house for 5%, which comes off the top of the price to begin with. And that is probably what the house is going to be worth if the market continues to go down. Now, what ends up happening in a buyer's market is prices do go down. Now, they don't go down 10, 15, 20% right away. They go down incrementally. And we've discussed again before on one of the broadcasts that real estate is usually a 6-month cycle. So if you're strategizing to come in and offer someone 20% less, 30% less, even in a slow market, chances are you're really barking up the wrong tree, because people will accept, if they put their house at fair market value, that they probably will have to pay or give in a little more than usual, but they're not going to accept something as outrageous as 10 or 20 or 30%. It just doesn't happen nowadays. Anyone that tells you that is really selling you a bill of goods. So those are the kind of margins that I think you should take into consideration. Okay, so very often these sellers are fatigued. Having your house for 40, 60, 90, 120 days on the market, endless open houses, endless showings, false promises, maybe even an offer that's gone back and forth that really is not going anywhere for the seller to get excited. All these kinds of things play into a buyer's market. And what you want to do is not necessarily take advantage of those, but let those educate you about the particular seller that you're dealing with. And of course, that's where your agent comes in and is a very important part of this equation, because your agent, sorry about that, is researching and finding out what the tense is, where the seller is feeling. Sorry about this. Lots of interruptions. Maybe that's a good thing, right, for me? Anyway, so we talked about what an actual market is. Again, 60 days or more, you're probably getting into a buyer's market. I bring this up today because I do think that within the next year or so, we are going to see a little bit more of a buyer's market than a seller's market. Although it's very tough to say in LA, because we still have people coming into LA in spite of what you see on the news. It's still a very attractive place to be, certainly in the area that I represent, the beach areas. Okay, so obviously if you've got a number of days that it's taking a house to sell, your ability to negotiate with that particular seller rises in terms of the patience level, and the creative level. Sellers are, after 60, 90 days, almost willing to hear anything outside of the 5% rule, but they are understanding that it's not the easiest thing to sell a house, and they're going to have to give some leeway to attract buyers. And so that is your biggest advantage as a buyer in a buyer's market. What is it I can do, or what is it I can ask for the seller to get them excited about selling the house to me? Now, price, again, is one thing. Obviously, that's 95% of it, but you need the other 5% to close the deal. So it's the other 5% that can make a great bit of difference in in the actual signing of a contract. So let me point out a couple of things that that you should consider when you're actually making the offer. First of all, there's nothing wrong with going back and forth. It happens all the time. Certainly giving your best price up front is usually the best way to handle things, because you just get it done quicker. You probably are going to reach that price point anyway in a negotiation that goes back and forth. But that's a personal thing. Everyone has their own idea about how they want to negotiate. And negotiations at that point become very personal. I don't sit in judgment of anything that someone wants to do as far as that goes. Neither should any other realtor. We're ethically bound not to care about that kind of thing. Advice is one thing, but forcing someone's, of course, is another. So what I generally find is the patient level, whether it's a $100,000 house or whether it's a $28 million house, which, by the way, is the price range that we've dealt with in our careers. It doesn't matter if it's more than 3 times going back and forth, that is to make an offer, get an offer back, respond to that offer, respond again. After 3 times, people start to become concerned. After 4 times, it's acceptable. 5 or 6 times gets to be tiresome, and people start to lose patience and actually get more emotional. So my suggestion is that when you make an offer, there's nothing wrong with going back and forth a little bit, especially with the terms, but irrespective of the price, you kind of have to get to the price within the first three um, turns, because that's the patience level that most people have. I'm running a little bit long today, so I'm going to hurry this up a little bit. What are some of the other things that you can get as a buyer? Well, financing terms. If a seller and you are pretty close to agreeing on what the price is, perhaps there's some financing terms that you can work out with the seller, respective of different loan programs, respective of down payment, that kind of thing. And what I mean specifically is that sellers are so happy to have someone that's legitimate, and after being on the market for so long, they're more than willing to hear maybe what you wouldn't have been able to do in a seller's market, and that is, not necessarily have to put down 20%. Maybe you only have to put down 10%. So those are options that they'll consider in that scenario, rather than obviously in a seller's market where they probably have you're competing with other buyers and they can put more money down. So maybe you don't have to put as much money down. That's one thing. You can ask for a longer escrow. Maybe you're selling a house in order to buy a house and you need a little bit more time to sell the house. We'll talk about on another broadcast contingency removals as far as buying and selling houses, but know that that's probably something that you can manipulate. Extensions are usually pretty easy. In other words, if someone's waited 60, 90, 120 days and your escrow period is 30 days, and there's some reason that you need to extend, there's a good chance that they're going to allow for the extension, simply because they're so close and they want the process to get over. So no one makes a big deal about a day or two, or maybe even a week or two. Maybe there's an employment situation where you just are making an adjustment or a change, or maybe there's a loan issue that you have to straighten out before you complete the actual process. So in a buyer's market, you have a little more leeway. And the last thing I'll leave you with today, because we're at 17 minutes already, is the inspection process. In the inspection process, you'll probably be able, after you're obviously in escrow and getting your inspection, you'll probably be able to ask for more than you would in a seller's market. In fact, in a seller's market, you probably can't ask for anything. But in a buyer's market, once your inspection comes in, there's a lot more room for negotiation. There's a lot more room for deciding what frankly, the seller might pay. And so you can go back and forth on that. And again, that's another blog that I've given already, but we'll continue to educate you about those as we go along. So I'll leave it there. One thing, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, we highly, highly encourage backup offers, especially in a buyer's market. Take a look at the inventory that's already in escrow and consider a backup offer. Now, that's one of the most exciting blogs that I did about a month ago. Please go back and take a look at that. That may save you a lot of money and a lot of stress. So I'm going to end it there. Before I go, once again, please consider downloading our Fournier Home Snap app, which I'm going to put at the bottom of this broadcast, where you can simply click onto the link and that program will download on your phone. And what you'll be able to do once you, my daughter again, breathing there. What you'll be able to do once you download that program is you'll be able to take a picture of any house in America and see what the value of that house is, the value of the houses next door to it, what the stats are on that particular house, when it was last sold, what the school systems are in that particular area. And by the way, again, as I said, this is nationwide. It's not great on commercial, but you can try commercial property as well. Literally a picture of any house in America, and it'll give you its value. One last thing before I go. If you have a question about that house, no matter where you are in America, please feel free to talk to us right on the app. There's a message system on the app where you can talk to us directly. We can give you advice about that house. And if you're out of our area, and by the way, we work West LA, South Bay areas. We've worked as far north as the Valley and as far south as Orange County. Our background allows us to do that. I know that's a little unusual. We are a little unusual in that respect as realtors, but we're very comfortable with it. So no matter where you are, you can ask us a question about that particular house. Maybe you want to see that house right away. We can actually take you to that house right away. But if you're way out of the area, we do have a terrific network of realtors that we know actually all throughout the world, and we're happy to refer them to you and or research maybe even the one that you already have. So feel free to contact us in any way possible. We'll see you next time. I ran a little late. I do apologize, but this is exactly what we do. We get into our experiential background. We get into things that will save you money, save you time, save you effort, and that's the purpose of this blog. So we'll see you next time, everyone, on 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. Bye. Don't know what happened there. Anyway, bye-bye.